The following program has had shockingly little input from any women, minorities, or disabled people. Nobody to temper the crazy musings of an old white man. That is precisely why viewers' discretion is advised. Well, that ended abruptly. I'm not sure what the heck happened there. That's one of the very first intros I ever created. I really like it also. Well, aside from the abrupt ending, obviously, hello. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Viewers Discretion. I'm your host, Joe Neerman, a.k.a. Good Lawgic. Hope your weekend has been going smashingly well. As for mine, I would say top notch. Top notch. Really, really wonderful weekend. We're at home with family. Really been going well. Yeah, okay. Good things going on in the world that I'm not really crazy about. But I highly recommend every once in a while you guys should detox from social media. Just turn it off. Turn it off 24 hours. It's good. It's a good thing. I will say that one of the things that happens when you detox from social media for 24 hours, which I do once a week, technically 26 hours or so, but that when you detox, you come back and there's all sorts of musings going on, all sorts of musings. I had one person who was telling me I need to turn in my Jew card because I'm standing up for Donald Trump, and my morality is just completely out there because I stand up for Trump. She actually had the cojones to share with me Colin Coward saying this guy knows better than LawTube. He knows better than LawTube. I guess anyone knows better than LawTube. There's no such thing. LawTube is a genre, but there's no LawTube. There's no LawTube group of people, but Colin Coward is certainly wow. The take she pinned there, it had some interesting stuff in it. Interesting stuff from Colin. And I like Colin. I'm not going to kid you. I've liked Colin for a very long time. He just happens to be, when it comes to politics, kind of an idiot. When it comes to understanding the law, absolutely ignorant. Just thoroughly ignorant. But let's not waste time with that. At least not at the moment. The highlight that we have today, is that I want to focus on primarily Vivek Ramaswamy, because he's a guy who's a lawyer. He knows what's going on. He knows what's going on. Before I can do that, I gotta take care of this. I gotta take care of my boy first. I gotta take care of the king of recruitment, coming in here, Master Phillips, with the 5 Good Lawgic memberships. That's right, I said it. 5 Good Lawgic memberships. God bless you, brother. Thank you so much for the support. I'm just gonna say that wasn't the right way to do that. One of those. We'll come back to Vivek's tweet in a moment. We'll come back to that in a few. Who did he bring in here? Who'd you bring in here, Master Phillips? Who'd you get here? Let's see who you brought in here. Denisha Bridell, new member of the following. Welcome, Denisha. Bear, gifted membership by Master Phillips. Hello from Kansas. Gene Parry and Eclectic Deb. My apologies, Deb. All gifted memberships courtesy of King of Recruitment, Master Phillips. Welcome to the following. I will remind you that the following is not at all a cult. And I am not, say it with me, Joe is not the leader of the following. I hope that was crystal clear. That's why I say it twice. I don't just say it once. Joe is not the leader of the following. Please Please never lose sight of that. I get very, very bothered when people get confused about that. Anyhow, with that being said, I want to jump right in. I'd like to jump right in and address this post from Vivek Ramaswamy, which I don't know. Let's see what he's got here. Vivek Ramaswamy says, can Trump be pardoned by president for his conviction in New York? This was posted yesterday. Well, yesterday my time. So like 6 hours ago, right? 7:04 p.m. Answer, yes. Here's why. The New York felony charges directly relied on claims that Trump violated federal law. New York prosecuted Trump based on the novel legal theory they committed a misdemeanor falsifying business records with the intent to commit another crime, including violations of federal campaign finance law. That means if the alleged federal violation is expunged, the state felony conviction disappears along with it. It's shocking how far the MSN has gone in the last 24 hours to hide this fact by expressly writing headlines that a pardon is impossible. Okay. So let's see what he's saying. Let's review this one more time. New York prosecuted Trump based on novel legal theory they committed a misdemeanor falsifying business records with the intent to commit a crime, another crime, including violations of federal campaign finance law. Okay, now, he even links to an article. See full legal argument here. I start going through this legal argument. This legal argument is not a novel thing for Vivek to be throwing out there. He threw this out there a year ago when these charges first dropped. Specifically, when we click on this thing here, you go to the Wall Street Journal opinion, which I don't subscribe to the Wall Street Journal. And I don't think we're going to need to for the purposes of getting his point, his overarching point. The president can pardon Trump. So he wrote this back when he was running for president and alleging that as president, he will pardon Trump. Now, I guess you would say, can he pardon himself? Okay. There's ample case law suggesting a state can't penalize a defendant for forgiven federal crime. Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg campaigned on investigating Donald Trump. Again, he wrote this on April 5th, 2023. So this is over a year ago that he wrote this when the charges first dropped. So DA Alvin Bragg campaigned on investigating Donald Trump and convinced the grand jury to deliver an indictment using a dubious legal theory that charges a misdemeanor falsification of business records as a felony by tying this to an intent to commit another crime. Legal experts and press reports suggest the other crime related to federal campaign finance violations. And on Tuesday, Mr. Bragg claimed that Mr. Trump's payment to Stormy Daniels was illegal and exceeded the federal campaign contribution cap. This prosecution sets a dangerous precedent that will likely lead to many more politically targeted prosecutions. I agree with that. That I agree with. I'm down with that. Very, very dangerous precedent. Biden can avert this danger and unify the country by issuing a pardon. If he fails to do so, and I'm elected president, I will pardon Mr. Trump on January 20th, 2025. Normally, the president has no power to pardon a criminal defendant for criminal charges brought under state law. I agree with that, too. But this case is different. The New York felony charges appear to rely entirely on claims that Trump violated federal law. Without the purported federal crimes, the state crimes would be misdemeanors and the statute of limitations would have lapsed. That means if the alleged federal crime is pardoned, the state felony charges fall too. Article 2, Section 2 of the U.S. Constitution authorizes the president to pardon all offenses against the United States, except for cases of impeachment. And again, this is federal law. This grant is broad and the effect of a presidential pardon is total. As the Supreme Court explained in Ex parte Garland 1866, a pardon reaches both the punishment prescribed for the offense and the guilt of the offender. And when the pardon is full, it releases the punishment and blots out the existence of guilt. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Should I get you the answer real quick here? Should we do this? We'll make a really short show. A very short show. Should we do a really short show? I think we might do a really, really short. This might be like a record short show for me. This might be a record short show. Yeah, so I appreciate his enthusiasm, and perhaps a year ago, when everyone thought that's what the charges were, that probably held more water. The problem with Vivek's tweet that he put out 10 minutes ago or 6 hours ago is that it doesn't look at the jury charges. Look at the jury charges. Jury charges. I can't. He posted this 6 hours ago. Posted this 6 hours ago. Now, which means, and he's saying the conviction. Now, let's ask whether you can pause before we get to this and ask, can a president pardon himself? Can a president pardon himself? Let's say on the federal crimes. Can he pardon himself from anything charged in the Jack Smith cases, Florida, DC? Can he pardon those cases, which are clearly federal crimes? Assuming he gets elected, would he have the authority to pardon himself from any crimes that he's charged with in those instances? The short answer is nobody actually knows. Nobody knows. The long answer is probably. Probably. Here's why. Okay, so the pardon power is plenary. He's got full disclose. He's got full decision-making ability there on who he's pardoning. Nothing in the Constitution precludes a president from pardoning himself. They certainly had the ability to exclude that. They did not. So, one would think it includes an ability to pardon himself from federal crimes, not state crimes, but from federal crimes. So I do think he would have the ability to pardon himself from any of the charges that were brought or any of the acts that relate to the charges that were brought by Jack Smith, either in DC case or in Florida. What about state cases? Well, I don't think he would be able to reach into Georgia if that case were to ever proceed, which I personally don't believe it ever will. But it could. It definitely could. That's more guesswork on my part than telling you legal prognostication. I'm just reading the tea leaves, and it doesn't smell. It smells like the odor mendacity is overcoming the ability for that case to proceed. But with respect to these convictions over here, that's what we're left questioning. Why do I say that it's sort of the with respect to these federal crimes and pardoning yourself likely can? Well, whenever we're dealing with anything dealing with law, especially when we have a novel situation, which obviously all of these situations are novel, a lot of it is subject to interpretation. And once that interpretation is done by somebody, that sort of establishes what is accepted and acceptable. You'd be surprised to learn how much of the law and what's actually okay and what's not actually okay based on how it's interpreted is really just people doing what they think the law says based on their own personal interpretations, whether those interpretations are biased or made in good faith, free from any taint of bias. And then they stay there as the law until some higher level court says no. But that's basically how law always ends up operating. Yeah, sure, when you're dealing in an established area, then you could say, okay, this guy, what he's doing here is completely in opposition to established precedent. But when you're dealing in an area that's never happened before, it's kind of the first person to act is formulating what interpretation of law is, and that only can ever be thrown into check if it's challenged by someone and they're brought to court and a higher level court says no, that was wrong. Otherwise, that's what becomes the established norm, is what's okay, what's acceptable. So let's foresee a situation here where Trump is elected in November, sworn in January, writes himself a big fat pardon for anything related to the federal crimes. I think we can foresee that it's likely when he leaves office, God willing, he should be well and strong. 4 years later, it may be challenged, and then it'll be up to a court to determine whether or not he had the authority to issue that pardon of himself. Yeah, we can foresee if Judge Chutkan is still on the case at that point, dealing with this DC Circuit case, one would expect that she would say the pardon is not good because you can't pardon yourself. Might see the DC Circuit Court agreeing. I'm not saying this based on any legal principles. I'm saying it based on patterns as to what we've seen come out of DC with respect to anything relating to Donald Trump. The law seems to be whatever it is that's terrible for him, that's what the law seems to be. So that's what and then the question would be, will the Supreme Court agree with the DC Circuit Court's interpretation? That's how we should foresee this entire thing playing out. I mean, that's how I would expect it to work out. We obviously don't know that. For the first step that would have to happen is Trump would have to win the election. The second step would have to be that he pardons himself, which I think that's pretty expectable. That's not going on a limb that he would do that. And then the next step would have to be that Jack Smith would come in, or someone would come in and basically say, going forward with this case, he would waive a pardon, and that pardon would either be recognized by the court or not. And we can foresee that in DC, a lot of judges who seem to not really be very fond of Donald Trump would likely not respect the self-pardon. And the question comes down as to what the court says. So anyone who says this is what the law is, I respectfully submit they're speculating, and whether they end up being proven right or not being proven right is really just a matter as to what the constitution of the court is at the time that this comes before them. When I say constitution, I don't mean, the document that was signed off in 1789. I'm talking about the constitution, meaning the makeup of the court in this context. Anyhow, so that's with respect to him self-pardoning on federal crimes, specifically, the federal charges that are pending in Florida and in DC. Let's come back now to Vivek Ramaswamy and his claims over here. Now, he was foreseeing when he first wrote this that he would be the one who would be president, and he's basically taking that position, perhaps a little bit grandstanding or hopefulness or over-eagerness. But now, in the context that he's throwing it out here now, clearly he would admit that he's talking about self-pardon in this case, because it would be Trump. It doesn't seem like Vivek expects anyone else would be pardoning him short of Trump doing it for himself. And he says that because these New York cases are premised on federal law, that he could pardon the federal law, and any punishment that comes as a result thereof would crumble. So these subsequent New York cases would crumble. And ergo, these convictions would go by the wayside. Big problem with this theory. I got a big problem with this theory. I frankly don't know what the heck he's talking about. You want to know why I don't know what he's talking about? Because I went through the jury charges. I did it with you guys the other night. We're about to share the jury charges with you. The relevant portion, not the entire thing, because that would take us another 2 hours. And what I'm going to show you is a little bit marked up because I had a lot of fun doodling on this as I was basically going through it. So please excuse that part of it. And we can jump in on the charged crimes. See how this is in pink because this is, well, it's not very based. So the first, when he was explaining it, he's going to walk them through the charged crimes. Jack. I will now instruct you in the law applicable to the charged offense. That offense is falsifying business records in the first degree, 34 counts. And he goes through New York Penal Code. This is definitely, everyone agrees this is a New York statute. This is what he's officially charged with. What he got convicted on was 34 counts of New York Penal Code 175.10. Let's look at how much federal law was used in reaching this conclusion. Because what Vivek is saying is that since these charges in 175.10 are premised upon findings of guilt in violations of federal law, that if the president were to make a big pen and cross out any guilt for those federal laws, all 34 charges that he was convicted of under New York Penal Code 175.10 would go bye-bye. Okay, well let's look through here how the judge explained to the jury that they would be finding his guilt on 175.10. talks about intent means conscious, objective, or purpose. Thus, a person acts with intent to defraud when his or her conscious, objective intent does not require premeditation. In other words, does not require advanced planning. Okay, fine, we got all that. We can look past my little markups here. Intent to defraud, intent to commit or conceal another crime. The crime of falsifying business records in the first degree intent to defraud must include intent to commit another crime or to aid or conceal the commission thereof. Okay? So it's not committing, it's really concealing is really the key part here that he was talking about. Under law, people must prove to commit another crime to aid, conceal, the commission thereof. They need not prove that the other crime was in fact committed, aided, or concealed. You could see how I felt about that. I got the furrowed brow and everything here. My little self-portrait. Okay, but so what is the other crime? What's the crime that he's trying to conceal? What is that crime? What's that crime? Is that a federal crime? Well, a year ago, we all thought it was a federal crime that this was referring to. That's what we thought a year ago. When we look at the jury charges, that's not what the judge pinned as the predicate crime. The predicate crime was New York election law 17-152. That's a state crime. So 175.10 is dependent on that he's trying to conceal his violation of New York State election law 17-152. The people allege that the other crime defendant intended to commit or aid conceals violation of New York election law 17-152, which says what? It says that the New York election law provides that any two or more persons who conspire to promote or prevent the election of any person to a public office by unlawful means, and which conspiracy is acted upon by one or more of the parties thereto, shall be guilty of conspiracy to promote or prevent an election. Now, you can ask whether or not this works under federal law. Like, can you have a New York State election law that refers to a crime of trying to steal a federal election? And that's an interesting question. But right now, I don't even know if that question is pending before any court. Maybe that's something that would be appealed by Donald Trump. It's not something I ever brought up, nor would be relevant to any claims I could make. The only person who could make these claims would be Trump and his legal team. It's an interesting question. Can you have a New York State election law that dictates issues regarding federal election? Possibly. When we consider the fact, and the reason I say possibly is because states have plenary authority on how they're going to conduct their elections, meaning they have carte blanche on how they conduct their elections. And if they make a state law in order to make sure that their elections, including federal elections, are being run properly, you can understand a court saying that makes sense. They were granted that authority to run their own elections under the United States Constitution. So you could sort of understand how they can come to the conclusion that, yeah, you know what, it does make sense that New York State can have an election law that governs not only its own state elections, but federal elections also, to ensure the proper legitimacy of the way they are conducting their federal elections. So I think I think if I try to sit and imagine if I was a sitting judge and someone came to me with this argument, how would I feel about it? And I try and remove myself from thinking about the names and just focus on the legal principles that are being discussed or potentially debated. Try looking at both sides, and then ask myself, if I was a judge, not knowing any names involved here, how would I feel about that? And I think that I could certainly be persuaded into believing. And the easiest way to do that, by the way, is just flip flop the names around. Where it's like, okay, Biden. Let's assume Biden is the one who was charged here. How would I feel about this? And I think I could be pretty readily convinced when you do look at it that way, you can say, you know what, I can understand that the United States Constitution gives plenary authority to each of the 50 states to conduct their own elections. And if they're going to pass state laws that affect how their elections are running, even their federal elections, I think that would make sense to me. I think I can be sold on that. So I do think that this state law is probably not going to be considered, a problem. So this is a valid law, but let's look at what this law says and then see whether Vivek might still be right, because he could still be right in theory, at least at this stage of things, because what does this law say? It says Section 17152 of the New York election law provides that any two or more persons who conspire to promote or prevent the election of any person in public office by unlawful means. Here we come back to another level of unlawfulness you need. So remember, first crime we had was this 17510. 17510 says you're trying to conceal a crime. So we need a second crime. What's the second crime? The second crime is this 17152. But 17152 says it has to be by unlawful means, meaning there's a third crime here. What's the third crime? What is the third crime? And the court's going to get to this in their jury instructions. They're going to get into this unlawful means and what that actually means here. Okay. Big question mark here. What the heck do they mean by unlawful means? What unlawful means did he engage in order to win an election? And the court came up with three different bases. As they go through their unlawful means over here, they go through three different bases as to what are the unlawful means. Okay. Although you must conclude unanimously that the defendant conspired to promote or prevent the election of any person to be a public office by unlawful means, you need not be unanimous as to what those unlawful means were. This is the part that Jonathan Turley had a problem with. He's like, how do you not have to have unanimity about what the unlawful means are? That seems crazy. I mean, you're basically convicting him and you don't even know what the unlawful means are. I had someone come on here, I think it was Chad Smith, who I'm not sure, when I had call in on Thursday night, and he's like, how do you have intent? And then that sold me on what Turley was saying. I think I'm still there and being sold on what Turley is saying. It's a problem that they might think that his intent, what was his illegal intent here? And it's an interesting thing because you can sort of, what Judge Merchan would argue here, what he would try to say is this. Okay, he did one of these three things, at least, according to the jury. The jurors basically decide he did one of these three things, if not more than one of these three things. And one of these three things made it unlawful. One of these things made it unlawful, so it was an unlawful attempt to steal an election, violating New York 17 election law 17-152. And then after he violated it, he broke New York 175-10, falsified business records to conceal the fact that he unlawfully won the election. Now, you can ask all sorts of legal questions with respect to the timing on this and how the whole thing works, that he's trying to conceal a crime. It's very, very strange what he's trying to conceal, but he needs this unlawful means. So what are the unlawful means that the judge suggested? And he came up with three different potential unlawful means that you may have. You may have one, the violation of Federal Election Campaign Act, otherwise known as FECA. Well, there's your first federal law issue that we're talking about. So there's a federal issue here now, Federal Election Campaign Act. And that it's unlawful to willfully make contributions to any candidate with respect to an election for federal office, including over a certain limit. Okay. So that would be, but that's a federal law. So let's assume that this was, let's say Trump pardoned himself from this federal election law. He says this Federal Election Campaign Act that the New York court, the New York jury determined that I breached this law. That made my win in New York unlawful, or through unlawful means, and therefore I violated 17-152. And you can't really look at that part of it for this. You cannot look at it for this part of things, because I'm pardoned for that crime. Can't look at it. So in that case, you don't have the unlawful means anymore. We don't have the unlawful means, which means I didn't really violate New York 17. This is what Vivek would argue. I therefore didn't violate. You can't hold me guilty of violating 17-152. And therefore, if I didn't violate 17-152, you can't hold me of violating New York Penal Code 175-10 with the subsequent business records, the 34 business records that were created to quote unquote conceal my violation of New York election law 17-152. Okay. I can sort of understand that. The problem that Vivek has here in presenting this argument on behalf of Donald Trump is that there's two other potential bases as far as unlawful means that the jury had to consider here in their jury instructions. One is the falsification of other business records. Meaning the second one that was put in there was the falsification of the business records, because that was another option that the judge gave him. The third one was violation of tax laws. Now, we tend to think of violation of tax laws as referring to federal tax laws, but it could be state tax laws. It could be violation of, the federal of New York tax laws. And besides the falsification of other business records, the second theory that he came up with for the unlawful means is falsification of business records. Under New York law, a person is guilty of falsifying business records of second degree when with intent to defraud, he or she makes or causes a false entry in the business records of an enterprise. So he's talking. What is he referring to here? The bank records that Michael Cohen submitted for his information and paperwork when he set up Resolution Consultants LLC. These are all New York filings. These falsification of business records, I believe them to be New York filings. Bank records associated with Mike Cohen's wire to Keith Davidson, invoice from Investor Advisory Services, all these things Michael Cohen is doing in New York. These are not federal laws. I don't believe them to be. I don't see why they would be federal laws. Why would they not be New York laws? It could be that it crosses over violation of tax laws on the New York State, New York City law. It's unlawful to unknowingly supplant to submit material false or fraudulent information in connection with any tax returns. So now this is now a New York State or New York City law that was unlawful, that he quote unquote purportedly violated. Now, is this retarded? Is this stupid? That he's basically getting hit potentially as unlawful basis? Is that he's overpaying taxes? Is that really possible? Yes, sadly it is, because this is how desperate they were to try and find any way to convict Donald Trump. So what we have here is that you broke New York State law, but you violate New York State law by reporting too much taxes owed and paying too much taxes. And you did that for the purposes of winning an election, which now is a violation of the predicate crime here of New York election law 17-152. And that now, when you wrote the records afterwards to conceal your violation of 17-152, now that all of a sudden comes into each writing now becoming a violation of New York Penal Code 175.10. 34 convictions, therefore, therefrom. So, accordingly, what we have here is a situation where the jury, because the judge sent him out ponderously and said those unlawful means could be any of three bases. So those unlawful means could be any of three bases. One of them is definitely federal law, unlawful. One of the bases they were considering is this business records, which is probably New York law, probably a violation of New York law. And the third one is certainly a New York City, or if not New York State law. So now with this unlawful thing, we don't even know that they found him guilty of any federal law. We don't know that. So accordingly, when Vivek is saying here that you can suck the life out of these state convictions by pardoning whoever would be pardoning, whether it be Biden pardoning him in theory, or Trump pardoning himself, assuming he could do such a thing. So if we wash away the FICA violation, that doesn't mean that this thing would go up in smoke anyway. Because they might say, well, look, you were found guilty. It would be a question, I guess. We wouldn't really know whether that has any impact on this thing at all. My point is this: in a best case scenario, if he pardoned himself, then we would be thrown into doubt as to whether or not the jury found him guilty, that his unlawful means was predicated on these pardoned federal laws, or whether it was based on the unlawful activity and everything here being state. I'm not sure what the heck would happen with it at that point? I'm not going to kid you. It's sort of a little confusing. I saw some people from in this sphere here who think that Vivek is crazy. As I'm going through this, I think Vivek is stretching. That's how I would say this. I would say this is a really tough one to go in there and try and appeal these convictions and say the reason I'm appealing. There's a lot of basis to appeal. No one should misunderstand anything I'm saying here. This finding there are so many so many errors of law that I cannot, in good conscience. I'm terrified someone would actually watch only a few minutes of what I'm saying here and mistakenly believe that I think anything other than the fact that these convictions are a gross distortion of New York law in a countless myriad of ways. Countless myriad of ways. So many errors of law that it's shocking. It's shocking how one judge could manage to come out this way. Now, I'm a member of the New York Bar, and I have great respect for the New York State Judiciary. As a member of the New York Bar, I have great respect for the New York State Judiciary. So I assume that everything here was above board, and no one should ever mistakenly think I'm implying otherwise. I simply believe that there was one erroneous finding of law after another, after another, after another, after another, going all the way back before the case started with the gag order, and all the way through many issues of law that were decided along the way during the course of this proceeding. So, I need to make clear that while I think that I think the findings here, I think this should be overturned immediately by any appellate court, which is reviewing this in good conscience, because it's such terrible, terrible, terrible law. Terrible, like just awful, awful. Like, oh my gosh, that's terrible. I'm not in a position to actually remedy any of those terrible findings of law. But, I'm hopeful that it will be overturned. Frankly, I think the appellate process takes too long for it to be overturned in what anyone would consider to be sufficiently timely fashion. But so I don't want anyone to mistakenly come to a conclusion that I think that this is good law. Because no, it's not. It's not good law. It's terrible law. Terrible law. I'm simply saying the pardon yourself option that Vivek is saying, here's something that not enough people are talking about. I'm telling you, if we got through all these different steps of him winning the election, pardoning himself, would that make these charges go away? I think that this is one of the weaker arguments because it still could withstand on the basis that, like, do you even know that the federal law had any basis here? Now, I don't know enough about criminal appellate work to tell you how an appellate court would look at the issue as far as, well, we don't know where the jury found the unlawfulness. We don't know if it was in federal law or state law. And I can understand someone coming to the conclusion that lack of certainty that this conviction was not rooted on a pardon issue may potentially have some sort of issue with respect to attacking the legitimacy, well, whatever legitimacy these convictions have in the eyes of New York law. But I I think it's a stretch. It's being very, very hopeful. It's very, very hopeful, and there are far stronger bases for these convictions to be overturned, short of this hopeful thing that maybe they'll be pardoned, and then through the pardon, now a court's gonna interpret that the findings that were made here are too founded upon a pardoned activity, when we don't even know for sure that it was founded on that pardoned activity at all. Now, the fact that we don't know that is part of the problem. That's one of the terrible elements of the law. The fact that he gave them three options and didn't even force them to say which of those unlawful means he purportedly used. My point being, Vivek, you probably shouldn't be running around screaming this because it's really weak. I'm not saying it's impossible. I don't think it's as impossible as other people I've seen chime in saying this is insanity, which I've heard some people saying. But I do think that it's dank. That's the way I would put it. It's dank. Is that the word I'm looking for? That's probably not the word I'm looking for. It's sus. it's a sus take. It's a very, I think Vivek's take here is very, very sus. Could it work? It's not going to work. Let's put it, this is not going to be. I don't foresee this working. I don't foresee it working. That's my take. The president can also charge the judges for treason against the president and others in court. The president can also open courtrooms and pick a judge. I'm not sure what process. I'm not sure where that would be. Where is that jurisdiction for that in the eyes of the law? But in locals, I wonder if public official covers federal office per definition in 17-100 only mentions state and subdivision. So, just felt very warm in here. I wonder if public officials covers federal office per definition in 17-100. 17 election. 17. So you want to say what is an interesting thought that Allegan's raising here. It's like, how is this applying to him when if you look at New York section 17-100 and they give definitions of public officer, that it says public officer shall be deemed to apply to any person who holds an elective or appointed office of the state, separate authority, or any political subdivision of the state with authority to supervise other personnel or subdivisions. The term public employee shall be deemed to apply to other personnel. This is an interesting. I like this attack better. I like this attack better than Vivek's attack. This is a very interesting legal attack. You now, Judge Merchan, said that this applies. This 17-152 could apply to Trump and his unlawful activity to win an election. When we're looking at 17-152, it's to prevent the election of any person to a public office. What the heck is a public office? Public office seems like they're not trying to dictate federal. That's a really interesting attack. This one I like. I like this much better than Vivek's attack. You're basically saying that he's trying to conceal the crime of 17-152. 17-152 cannot apply to him because it's only referring to state offices. Based on definition that comes out in 17-100 of New York election law, which says public officer is specifically talking about state, separate authority, or any political subdivision of the state with authority to supervise other persons. I like this argument a lot. It just seems there's nothing here federal. It all seems state, 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 state. That's interesting. That's really to me. This is actually a very powerful argument. I like this argument a lot. Again, just so you all understand what Allegan News is pointing to here. Okay, do a quick review here to understand. Right, what is he guilty of? 34 counts of falsifying business records for the purposes of concealing a crime. What is the crime? What did Judge Merchan say the crime was? The crime was this crime here. He's trying to conceal this crime. But as Allegan is pointing out, he could not violate this crime because this crime only relates to state elections or state public officers, not to federal public officers. Based on the definitions set forward in 17-100. Whenever you see 17, this is like the section of New York election code that's talking about and definitions coming in 17-100. This is a great argument. This is a phenomenal argument. This is a powerful argument. I love this argument. Big fan of this argument. I assume that it just ties into federal election law, and you're saying this doesn't apply to federal elections. I think as I read that section, and I haven't obviously researched 17-100 to see whether it blanketly also applies to federal, but it seems like a strange blanket to apply. That's a That's that's really pulling out that blanket to cover a lot of bodies that you wouldn't think that it's intended to cover. I like this argument. I love this argument. The more I'm looking at this argument, the more I like it. Much better than Vivek's argument, that's for sure. Is Tony Steele dossier the same? Well, you're not dealing with New York law, so it's hard to really know how to apply it. You know what I'm saying? All this is under New York state law. And the Hillary and Steele dossier, I don't know if there's any relationships in New York, so it's hard to weigh in on that. Can oppose pardon a state conviction? No. If I was on the jury, unless it's rooted in federal election law. My point is we don't have any. We have to figure out how this is rooted in federal election law or some federal law that's been pardoned. And the point is we have no way of knowing that it was. If I was in the jury, I cannot make proper verdict as he can become president and charge me with treason. That's a hangable offense. I don't know that he could charge with treason. That would be a difficult thing. But federal laws are what they got them past the statute of limitations. I didn't see the arguments about statute of limitations, so I don't want to weigh in on that. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. I'm not really sure. I like your argument a lot better than what they put forward. That's a very effective argument. Checking. 5 separate sources don't mention state in New York 17-152. But the definitions of what we're talking about here, it's not. I haven't researched this. POTUS is the only elected official that's federal only. I don't know what that means. Member of the House, would that person be included in 17-100? Doesn't seem like it would be. I think AOC, does that apply to AOC? I don't think it does. Now I gotta start researching New York election law. What am I? Did someone hire me? This is New York election law. I don't see what I see. Let's look at 17-100. Yeah, this is laying out for Section 17 of New York election law. Smears at or in connection with primary elections caucuses. That didn't work. Here's 17-152. That's not good. Why is it doing that? Let's see if I can. Let's try this way. Yeah. I have a. Uh-oh. What's happening? computer's not working. I don't know. Took care of her into? Okay, now it's working. There we go. Should be good. That should be good. Okay. Now I'm connected. Now it's working. Everything was all funky on me there for a minute. So weird. It's so weird. Okay. Any two or more persons who conspire to promote or prevent the election of a person to a public office. Now, I don't see, when I'm looking at this 17, this is what I didn't want. When I'm looking at 17-100 here, which is Article 17, they give you your definitions, and that's what we were looking at earlier, where they say a public officer here seems to imply we're talking about state offices. Then when it says the word election as used in this article should be deemed to apply include all general, special, and primary elections, unofficial primaries, and all local elections relating to candidates, ballot proposals, proceedings for the nominations of candidates by petition, all elections held pursuant to Article 52A of the Education Law. Let's see what 17102 says. Primary election or caucus. Does sound like it's, that could be state or federal potentially. Just trying to see. Because if we look at 17152, right, that's what he was found guilty of. Let's look at this again. 17152. 17152. Prevent the election. Election doesn't say public officer. It says to a public office. Why would it say public officer? Does that not include public office? As means a public officer holds a public office? I don't know. These are interesting questions. These are interesting questions. Bella Stella hitting with 10. 10 good Lawgic memberships. God bless you, Bella Stella. Let's see who we brought in here. I do want to know who you brought in. Because people have a right to know. The people have a right to know. Why is this so slow? I apologize. My computer's running a little slow here. Definitely trying to pull this up here. Really? This is where I had a problem. I can't find it now. I can't find out who it was. I can't find who it is that Bella Stella brought in. The 10 of you who were brought in by the queen of recruitment, Bella Stella. Thank you, God. I'm going to give you another one of these because I feel guilty about this. Please be aware. Please be aware that you're now a member of the following. And I know you get confused because viewers discretion. How does that do the following? Because I host a show called The Following Program. That's the origins. That's why people became followers. Not everyone's a follower, by the way. Not everyone. Some are disciples. Some are high priests. Some are prophets. Some are leaders. Not everyone's a follower. If you got elevated from being, let's face it, a nobody, into being a follower, I urge you to recognize that there are higher levels to work toward. Don't think that, oh, now I'm stuck here in follower mode. No, 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 no. Not in any way, shape, or form to disparage the status of follower, because I should point out that of the 8 billion people on the planet, you're like in the top 1% of 1% of 1% of humans who's blessed to be a member of the following. And the following is not obviously not at all a cult type of cult, you know. So don't start start flying off and saying, oh, now I got to start, sacrificing goats. Because no, there's none of that. Or like now you're looking in the sky with your binoculars for there's no spaceships in the following. No tracksuits that are mandatory, at least. Some people sometimes wear tracksuits. That happens. That's going to happen. They're very comfortable. They're very, very comfortable. But no, there's no Kool-Aid. Much to the chagrin of some folks, no Kool-Aid. No Kool-Aid. No Kool-Aid for you. And certainly no throwing virgins into volcanoes. We had that one incident, and we don't want to repeat of anything like that. No smearing blood on the walls or screaming red rum or basically running around like cackling like a chicken. All that's been gotten rid of. All that's been gotten rid of. It's because the following is not at all a cult. And I'm not the leader. Say it with me. Joe is not the leader of the following. Please make sure we all understand that. You call House, but not POTUS. I don't know what that means. Joe, you might find this interesting. DOJ just deleted that Juan Merchan was a fellow at the Biden Advanced Science and Technology Adjudication Resources Center, 2012 to present. That's hilarious. New member, Ellie Font. Welcome, Ellie. Welcome to the following. God bless you. Andrew says, 3 cheers to Allegan for liberating Trump. Hopefully. We'll see. I don't know. Could be. Czech court's rulings may be in pretrial motion. Possibly. Honestly, I'll tell you right now, it probably would not be in a pretrial motion because everyone thought that it was a violation of federal election is what they were talking about. This New York election, I never heard. It was so confusing throughout the entire time as to what the charge was. They said New York Penal Code 17510, but what crime he was trying to conceal, even coming into opening arguments, into opening statements, we were unsure. It wasn't until they got to closing and jury instructions that they basically said, oh, this is it. So I'd be surprised if this came up in pretrial motions. Bravo Echo, which is another way of saying B, says, what business records were falsified? Did Trump pay personally from his personal checking account? Who would be defrauded by his personal records? No, they say that Michael, he is part of a conspiracy, and if you take any role in the conspiracy, and even if someone else is the major actor, you still can cite Trump for it. In this whole catch and kill and then using money, and that Trump and that Mike Cohen got the money by falsifying records that they sent to his bank or falsified records on his tax returns. So it's really not Trump doing it. It's that Michael Cohen paid too much in taxes and lied about his taxes. That's what they're talking about. Where are the records for DC's payoff slush funds? Someone shared this with me. Now, this is something just in case you haven't heard me talk about this. What Ellie Font is asking about here is that I pointed out that if what he did here was a crime, then anyone who's ever benefited from a slush fund, the Congress has a slush fund for anyone who is being attacked and threatened, that they're going to be exposed for some sort of disgusting conduct that they engaged in. There's a slush fund which has paid off as of a decade ago at least $17 million to silence people who are attacking sitting congressmen and congresswomen. So anyone who is a beneficiary of that and then didn't disclose it, that Congress then has to disclose that they're donating money, according to what New York court has just said about Trump. That's what they're basically saying. So every one of them is in violation. Every single one, anyone who ever benefited from it would be in violation. This is how stupid this is, the way they're twisting this law to try to come after Trump specifically. Because seriously, anyone who is beneficiary, because the whole point here is Trump was a beneficiary of Michael Cohen advancing money for him, and then was trying to hide that he advanced money for him because he was trying to, he's trying to steal an election. So someone asked me about this Trump, about that, and I actually had someone who was courteous enough to share with me a link to that. Where was it? There it is. CNN reported about this in 2017. It was a big story a few years back. This is CNN. This is an important thing for you all to know. They reported in 2017, November 16, 2017. So near the end of Trump's first year, Congress paid out $17 million in settlements. Here's why we know so little about that money. Two things have become painfully clear on Capitol Hill this week. Lawmakers and staffers say sexual harassment is rampant, but even members of Congress have no idea just how widespread the problem is. The controversial and sensitive issue has taken center stage in Congress this week, with female lawmakers making fresh allegations of sexual harassment against unnamed members who are currently in office, and the unveiling of a new bill on Wednesday to change how sexual harassment complaints are reported and resolved. On Thursday, a woman shared her story of being groped and kissed without her consent by Senator Al Franken, which, frankly, there's probably no woman who's ever consensually agreed to kiss Al Franken, at least not for like a hefty fee. So far, there's been little specific data to help illuminate just how pervasive sexual harassment is on Capitol Hill, but one figure has emerged: the total that the Office of Compliance, the office that handles harassment complaints, has paid to victims. On Thursday, the Office of Compliance, this is going back again in 2017, so they're saying, Thursday before November 17, 2017. So back in November 2017, the Office of Compliance released additional information, including that it's paid victims more than $17 million since its creation in the 1990s. That includes all settlements not just related to sexual harassment, but also discrimination in other cases. So what? That's still the same thing. There's no difference. Not because it's the fact that they're getting these payments made for them by the Office of Compliance. An OOC spokeswoman said the office was releasing the extra data, quote, due to the interest in the awards and settlement figures. The OOC has come under fire in recent days for what lawmakers and Hill aides alike say are its antiquated policies that do not adequately protect victims who file complaints. CNN has also learned that during the current Congress, no settlement payment approval requests have been made to the Congressional committee charged with approving them. Here's what we know and what we don't know about that money. When was this money paid out? According to the Office of Compliance, more than $17 million is paid on settlements over a period of 20 years, from 1997 to 2017. How many settlements have there been? According to the OEC data released Thursday, there have been 268 settlements. 268 people benefited. On Wednesday, Representative Jack Spire, the California Democrat who unveiled the bill to reform the OOC, announced at a news conference Wednesday there have been 260 settlements. The previous tally did not include settlements paid in 2015, 16, and 17. Where did the money come from? Taxpayers. Once the settlement is reached, the money is not paid out of an individual lawmaker's office, but rather comes out of a special fund set up to handle this within the U.S. Treasury, meaning taxpayers are footing the bill. The fund was set up by the Congressional Accountability Act, the 1995 law that created the Office of Compliance. How many of the settlements were sexual harassment related? Not clear. Spire told CNN's Wolf Blitzer on Wednesday that the 260 settlements represent those related to all kinds of complaints, including sexual harassment, as well as racial, religious, or disability-related discrimination complaints. The OOC has not made public the breakdown of the settlements, and Spire says she's pursuing other avenues to find out the total. In its latest disclosure, the OOC said that statistics on payments are not further broken down to specific claims because of how friggin' humiliating it is. Because settlement claims may involve cases that allege violations of more than one of the 13 statutes incorporated. It's hard to say when so many of these sexual predators are also racist. Who knows about the settlements and payments? After the settlements reach, the payment must be approved by the chairman and ranking member of the House Administration Committee and aide to Chairman Greg Harper, and a Mississippi Republican told CNN. They had also said that since becoming chair of the committee, Chairman Harper has not received any settlement requests. Harper became chairman of the panel at the beginning of this year. It's not clear how many other lawmakers, if any, in addition to the House Administration Committee's top 2 members, are privy to details about settlement payments. A source in House Speaker Paul Ryan's office told CNN that Ryan is not made aware of the details of harassment settlements. That source also said that top Democrat and Republican on the House Administration Committee reviewed proposed settlements, and both must approve the payments. Similarly, a source of Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi's, because in 2017 she was in the minority, told CNN that Pelosi is also not made aware of these details, and they're confined to the parties of the settlement leaders. It's unclear how much of $17 million is paid to sexual harassment cases because the office compliance complex reporting process. However, even knowing that dollar figure doesn't quantify the problem. A source within the OOC tells CNN that between 40 and 50% of harassment claims settle after mediation and early stage in the multi-tiered reporting process. And the number of settlements reached may not be indicative of how widespread sexual harassment is, as many victims choose not to proceed with OOC's process for handling complaints. Tracy Manzer, spokeswoman for Spire, told CNN last week 80% of people who have come to their office with stories of sexual misconduct in the last few weeks have chosen not to report the incident to the OOC. So if there's 260 cases, that's 1/5 of the amount of actual cases. It means that there's basically 1,200 cases in 20 years. Yeah. But for purposes of analyzing, comparing it to the Donald Trump situation, we know of 260 people who are beneficiaries of the OOC. All of them committed crimes by not reporting that they got those monies from the OOC to help cover these harassment claims, to the same extent that Trump, quote unquote, benefited from alcohol. If anything, far more overtly than Donald Trump, because Donald Trump at least has a defense that if he was part of this, it might have nothing to do with an election, but has to do with his general PR. One would think that most of these congressmen and women don't have general PR to be concerned about other than their political ambitions. So if anything, they're far worse than Donald Trump. I'm going to share a link to this in my locals, which is goodlogic.locals.com. I want to point out to you all, I am at 98,000 people here, 98,000 subs, punching my way up to 100,000. So if you're here and you can hit that like and subscribe button, I would be much obliged. I'm going to put this in here now before I forget, because I will forget. Lady Lawgic's hanging out in locals, having a good time there.
How do you know?
I smell it.
You saw me?
Lady Lawgic hanging out in locals there. She's hanging out in locals, talking to the locals in locals. Everyone's very quiet in locals right now, which that's where she's hanging out. So if you want to talk to Lady Lawgic, that's where you'll find her. This is a CNN article exposing Congressional. Sorry, I'd take care of that before I forgot, because if I didn't do that, I would have forgotten. But now it's done. All right. You all hit your like and subscribe so far? Good. Let's see what's going on here. Just for the chat, everything's rigged, conspiracies, yada yada, of course. There you go. I've ordered the not Kool-Aid for the diggers. Thank you. White tracksuit with blue fringe. That'd be pretty funny. That'd be pretty funny. This deposit my bribe Joe for a shiny coin phone. So this is this the shiny coin? Is this the shiny coin you're talking about here? I'm supposed to be auctioning off, which features a picture of some random digger. I don't know, maybe it's like a miner from like, miner, M-I-N-E-R, not O-R. A miner from like one of the seven dwarves. I don't know, maybe it's that. I don't know what that is. But yeah. Your typical blue collar worker right there. You can tell in the picture there. That's on the back of the coin. On the front of the coin, And it's dopey right there. Where it says digger challenge shekel, and he's digging away there. There's your miner digging away. So I have right now 9 of these. I'm supposed to have 10. I have 9 of these. I haven't sold any. I haven't auctioned. I'm thinking I'll auction these off. That's what I'm thinking I'll do. I'm thinking I'll auction these off. If you knew what I paid for them, you'd be like, wow, Joe, that's pricey. Yeah, it was pricey. But, this way, when I abandon my career, I'll be able to look back and say, hey, my community once had coins featuring some weird looking dude on it. Can we get a member tier below follower for the poor? Maybe we call it lurkers, please and thank you. No. Sorry. What's the point? That doesn't make any sense. Always make a full general pardon if trying. No. Once federal crime bucket pardon unanimity gone. Perhaps that's the argument that Vivek would make. You don't know that it's gone because maybe they found him guilty on unlawfully committing all 3 of them. Gag for first debate, not election interference. Of course, it's election interference. Of course it is. Geeky. Link chat the article, please. I want to share it. Some locals, but I'll think about doing it at the end. I'll see. I put a link in locals who Biden said he will block law to stop the slush fund. It's from Reuters. Yeah. When's that happening? Biden's only shot to look fair is to do the pardon. It would be a master stroke. I'm keeping you out of prison. It would be a master stroke. It would be a wise move. I don't know if they have the cojones to do it. You misunderstood my question. Read it again. 17510 doesn't require conspiracy, but it requires records to be of an enterprise be falsified. What was the enterprise Trump paid personally? Oh, the enterprise that was referenced there in the unlawfulness was that he's falsifying records submitted to an enterprise, meaning to a bank. The enterprise in that context was the bank. I need to pull this up. I'll pull it up here. 17510 doesn't say anything about an enterprise. The enterprise comes up with respect to the falsifying records, not this falsifying records, but the other falsifying records. I mean, over here, it might say, does it say enterprise here? Oh, enterprise over here means one entity. I apologize. I'm mistaken. Enterprise means an entity of one or more persons, corporate, otherwise. This is the Trump enterprise. Trump's own records. The Trump organization. I didn't say it requires a conspiracy. What I was saying is that he said that even if you complete it in part, your part, even if you're part of it, you're still guilty for all the actions done by anyone in part enrolled in that. So the Trump organization is what paid ultimately. I hope that answers your question. I wasn't trying to duck it. You got some money for my camo pattern tracksuits or whatever. I'm leading a strike for better workplace conditions. Joe, don't make me do it. I'll see what I can do. And 9 shekels for the kingdom of men. 9 shekels. But 1 shekel will rule them all. 1 shekel will rule them all. 9 shekels for the kingdom of men. 1 shekel to rule them all. All right. Yeah. I'm going to take 1 or 2 phone calls. I'll tell you right now. I'm a little tired. I'll take 1 or 2 phone calls. Don't really ask me about anything. But if these phone calls stink, it's probably going to be 1 or 2. Please don't keep them long. Please don't keep me on the phone for 20 minutes. Just make your point. Get in, get out. Get in, get out. One or 2 phone calls. Don't make me regret this. Don't make me regret it. One. No. Trump or didn't pay. Trump did personally. I think you're mistaken. He signed the check. I don't think he paid personally. I think you're mistaken. I think my recollection is that you're mistaken. Tickets, it's 12 tribes. Yeah. What was I at here? I know I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Why is this thing being so difficult on me tonight? YouTube is being really difficult for me. I apologize for this. It's just not loading. Not loading. Oh my God. This is painful. It's painfully slow. YouTube is being terrible. Are you guys having YouTube issues? Trump getting standing O at UFC Jersey fight tonight. Yeah, that was awesome. Fighters from different backgrounds showing him love. There's something in the air. This is his year. Oh, I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. This is annoying. Let me refresh this one more time. I'm trying to open up the main YouTube chat. All right, well, I'm just going to post it here. Call number is 972-454-0703. That's 972-454-0703. I don't know why YouTube is being as difficult as this. It's being incredibly difficult for me. All right, now I'm able to open it. Can I pin this in on? Why isn't it showing here? It's really being a nuisance. Yeah, I apologize. YouTube is being very, very difficult on me, and I'm not sure what's happening with respect.
Call from
Chris.
Chris. You there, Chris?
Yeah.
Hey, good evening. How are you?
Oh, pretty good. How are you?
Thank God. I am doing very, very well. What's on your mind?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to say I saw something today that actually gave me a lot of hope, and that was when I went out to I was watching the Jimmy Dore show for a little bit, and almost all the commenters were saying that they're now voting for Trump. And this
Really?
is a very far left-wing guy.
Yeah, he is pretty far left-wing. Although I will say that a lot of his takes about events in 2020 and 2021 and some laws that were being passed that I won't get more specific about so that I don't get shut down here. I thought were pretty based, but that's really interesting. What type of takes were they having? What was his take about this?
Just very sympathetic. But when I was watching all the chats, it was like all of his people saying that, normally I would never be on Trump's side, but here I am. And it's just one comment after another. I didn't see anybody who wasn't supportive of it. It was
That's
very
amazing.
encouraging to me.
That is very, very encouraging. That's awesome. Yeah, because his audience is going to lean a lot further left than mine will. That's for sure. So when you say commenters, you mean people commenting on his video?
Yep. Yeah. And just all the other people coming over. I mean, Bill Ackman and even Chris Cuomo seems to be a little bit coming over. Not that we really want him on our side, but
right. No, he's kind of.
But
yeah, I mean, you can't deny the fact. I'll say this. I think that they're intending it for folks who are not politically inclined. So if you have a cursory view of the news, and you're leaning a little bit against Trump, they're hoping that this is going to put you over the edge to be like, okay, he's convicted. Now I'm definitely done with this felon. How people supporting a felon. I think that's who it's really aimed at. It's not aimed at people who actually care about politics on a week by week basis, even, or a month by month basis, but that basically show up every 4 years. I think that's who it's aimed at, but it's nice to see that people are not, it's not, that people even on the left side are saying that. Yeah, I saw what you said, by the way, Grifty. I'm sorry for 1 second, Chris. I saw your DM. I see the Rumble chat in here. I don't see Rumble rants in here though. I don't see Rumble rants. That's the only thing that's not in here. It's very frustrating. Rumble chat gets merged in here, but not Rumble rants. I pull up Rumble. Here's a Rumble chat right here. I pull them up all the time. This guy's from Rumble. Sangland 86. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Chris.
All right.
Appreciate that.
yeah, thank you. Thanks for all you do.
Have a great night, my brother. All right, 972-454-0703. Try and plow through a couple quick ones. A couple of quick ones over here. Quick one while he's away. The best songs ever by The Who. Challenge.
call from
Oh, hello.
Hey, Joe.
Hey, who is it?
This is Yo Pops. I've been a little bit of a lurker, been in the chats for a little bit. How you doing, man?
I'm awesome. Welcome. This is your first time caller?
Cool. Yes, sir. Yes,
So you're
sir.
supposed to say first time caller, long time listener. That way I feel like
No, I wanted to say that. I wanted to say that.
What's on your mind tonight?
I know the topic is about whether or not Trump could pardon himself and all that. And I'm not too versed on all that, but
It's okay. I figured most people weren't. That's why you can branch away from that if you're inclined. That's okay.
Okay, cool. So I know, and I'm going to sound very black-pilled here, and what people said black-pilled. I like to say real, like a realist, you know. And I know everyone has a lot of hope. Everyone's saying that with Trump being convicted, all 34 counts and all that, oh, he just secured his spot as president and everything. But a lot of states haven't fixed their elections. There's still a lot. I'm in California, so I kind of feel your pain of where you're at and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Out here, they cheat elections all the time. Our governor, Gavin Newsom, he was able to get rid of the recall elections that we try to do for him and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And they already cheated once. They're going to cheat again. And I guess my point is this, is that the groundswell of support Trump is getting right now, and we already know that the other side is very scared of him, scared of Trump. They're doing everything in their power to get rid of him, right? But there's going to be a point where the political thing doesn't work, where the lawfare doesn't work. And I'm just going to come out and say this. I'm afraid that they're going to JFK him as their ultimate thing to get rid of Trump. That's how scared they are of him. And I know everyone wants to hope that, we're all going to go. And don't get me wrong. I'm going to go out to the polls. I'm going to vote. I'm going to do what I can. I threw in $100 into Trump's campaign. I've never donated to any politician ever in my life. But I mean, these people are nefarious. These people are willing to do whatever it takes to get their, communist plans into place. And they will, we already seen it with the BLM riots. We've already seen it with Antifa and everything. Their ground troops, causing mayhem and destruction. And, in Chuck Schumer, when back in, was it 2016, said the intel agencies have 6 ways to Sundays to deal with Trump. And, this is going to be, I feel that they're going to cause some sort of harm to Trump to ultimately get rid of him. And I think people have to be ready for that. They have to expect that.
Okay.
What say you?
You said your name is Theo Pops?
Yo Pops.
Yo
my name's
Pops.
Leo. My
Leo.
real name's Leo.
All right, Leo. Let's go with Leo, okay?
Okay.
When I was younger, I was kind of black belt. I would describe myself as being black belt. Much younger, decades ago. I don't know if Lady Lawgic ever met me as being black belt, but when I was younger, I was black. I was kind of cynical in that sort of way.
Yeah.
And what I realized at a certain point was that black pill mentality is a crutch. Meaning, and I think it's a weak crutch. And I understand that a lot of people have it. A lot of people, probably the majority, probably a significant majority of people have a black pill type of mentality where they sort of feel as if things are not going to get better or there's going to be some other thing that's going to thwart. And I think that the motivation that primarily dominates to motivate people towards being black pill is, not. Are you a religious person?
I was raised Catholic. I mean, long story short, I really don't believe in a lot of the religious institutions. But as far as God and Jesus and all that goes, yeah, I am a believer. But yeah,
Okay.
as far as established religion goes, I am very pessimistic about organized religion.
Mm-hmm. Well, because I'll tell you this, and I'm sure this applies in all the Abrahamic faiths and probably in the other ones as well.
Mm-hmm.
There's a concept that I've heard frequently in Jewish teachings that one of the devil's strongest weapons is despair, where it's like the objective is to try and make you feel as if a situation is hopeless, so that you don't put forward effort. And I think what happens is that people sort of look at being black-pilled as this way I'm prepared for it. Since you even used that term when you were talking about it, you said people need to be prepared for this eventuality that you have concerns about, that there's going to be some effort to basically delete him from the earth. And is that a possibility? Yeah, I mean, obviously anything's a possibility. I wouldn't rule that out. But I think that when you walk through life with a perspective that this terrible outcome is in eventuality, people feel as if they're preparing themselves, and now you're more ready for it, but you're not actually more ready for it, because you're just not, because you're just, all that happens is that you're not doing anything to stop it from happening. And I'm not saying you should be, because you're not in a position that you could be, but I'm simply saying all that happens is that if in fact that worst case scenario that people are predicting were to come to pass, that you would basically have the tonic of being able to say, I knew it, or I told you so, or whatever.
Okay.
You're not any
Mhm.
better, you're not in any better enhanced position simply because this thought occurred to you, or you believe it's something that's an eventuality. So what ends up happening to all these people who come through life, and I'm sure if you're black pilled in one area, it's in a number of different areas, and it's a common mindset. And I'm not saying this in a way to criticize you that there's something wrong with you for having this mentality. I think a lot of people have this mentality. I'm simply saying it's a mentality that I think we should struggle to get past, rather than saying that this is being a realist. I think it's a matter of us trying to depend on a crutch of being like, this will help me get through it when it happens, when it doesn't actually end up helping you. It doesn't do anything. That tonic doesn't feel any better. You just be like, dang it, I knew it. And far too often when it's in areas that are under your control, it ends up becoming self-fulfilling, or it ends up leading us toward feeling despair about situations and feeling like I can't do anything to fix this situation. That's a classic junkie situation, right? Like where he's like, well, I'm never gonna be able to fix this situation. This is just my lot in life. And I think that I'm not saying to be unrealistically white-pilled, but I think that you end up being much less, we unnecessarily make ourselves unhappy anticipating terribleness will come down the road, rather than taking a perspective of like, look, whatever comes down the road, we're going to deal with it. It's going to be okay. And I'm not saying that there's not going to be terrible things that are going to happen. Challenging things happen to each of us individually on a micro level and on a macro level all the time. That doesn't mean that like, the heavens are going to fall, the sky is going to fall from the earth, or all these terrible disparities are going to be so crushing that we're going to be doomed to live a life of misery. And I think what happens is that people end up making themselves unnecessarily more miserable than they need to be in preparation, saying this way I'm prepared for the outcome, but it doesn't actually end up making you feel any better anyway. So it's just unnecessary misery that I think people take in order to feel as if they're more knowledgeable, more informed, when it's really they're just being negative about what the future is, and it's not really helping them prepare for the future. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you. I agree with you. I mean, you're making a lot of good points. It's just that, it's happened before. You know what I mean? 1965, whenever that happened.
Yep.
It's happened before.
1963 is when JFK
right.
was. So here's the thing. Okay, and then it happened again. It happened to his brother in 1967 or 68.
Yeah.
I understand that. And could it happen again? Obviously, yeah, it could definitely happen again. It could happen again. It could happen a dozen times over the next year, for all any of us know. I'm simply saying that taking that type of, it's like you can always predict that a negative thing will happen. How many times are we wrong when we make? None of us are ever right when we make our predictions. We're just saying, I got a feeling. But if that feeling isn't rooted in anything more than saying, I got a feeling the next time the roulette wheel spins that it's going to come out on a 28. It's like, okay, that could happen. But if it's a negative feeling, like, how is that helping anything? It's not rooted.
No, you're
it's
right.
not rooted. It's not rooted in any, if you told me that here are the signs that this is going to happen, and should his team be prepared to try and protect him? Obviously, the Secret Service, that's their whole function. That's why they're there. But should he be taking steps to be cautious based on that? Obviously, but he's not you.
Mm-hmm.
I assume you're not setting his schedule for where he's taking his trips or his safety measures.
Oh man, he'd be in a world of trouble if I was the one, in charge of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I'm saying, like, if you were setting his safety measures, I'd be like, okay, that's a healthy attitude. Like lawyers, when lawyers prepare documents, we're always trying to prepare for the craziest calamities that may come out and predict those so that we can cover every possible eventuality. But if you're just sitting here observing events that may have an impact on us, but we have zero control over, in that case, I just feel like it's such a defeatist attitude that unnecessarily makes us less happy than we otherwise would be if we just don't assume that this terrible outcome is going to happen for nothing, for no more basis than the next roulette wheel's 28.
I mean, Joe, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying, let's just give up all hope, and that's not what I'm saying. We're at a point right now where, and the crazy thing is, we got a bunch of people that are galvanized that would have never voted for Trump. That would have never thought that they're going to support Trump.
Correct.
Before this all happened, right?
Correct.
And I completely agree with you. I'm not saying, give up all hope and just, I can't do anything. No, we got to do whatever we can. But I guess my point is that the people that are in reins of power right now, the people actually that control the government, that control the world, whatever you want to say, these people are willing to do whatever it takes to keep hold onto their power is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't be so naive to think that, this is, that come November, or was it November, right? That's when the elections happen, right? Is it November?
November, yeah, November 5th.
Yeah, November, yeah. When, November happens, that's going to be the end all be all. Like, pretty much what I'm saying is that this is only the beginning. This is only the beginning, and things are about to get a lot crazy.
That I agree with you. That I agree with you. But the reason I agree with you that things are going to get crazier is not because of a black pill type of perspective. It's just because historically, as things get closer and closer to election, there's just more and more craziness that unfolds, and it doesn't take and anyone to read. You can read tea leaves based on history and how people have been conducting themselves to recognize that no matter the outcome of the election, half the country is going to be going nuts. So definitely. I mean, look, I'm in California, right? So I'm in a place called Orange County. It's the redder parts. I mean, pretty much California. The only place that's really blue is like Los Angeles and San Francisco and those areas, right? Everyone else, we're all just regular people, just living, surviving, just regular people, like me and you. And but being in the thick of it all, it's just like I don't know. I just feel like it's going to get crazy. It just hopefully fun. Hopefully fun. Who knows?
Hopefully.
We can always hope. I don't know. Maybe good things. Maybe we get crazy like in 2016, no one anticipated that we would be seeing like having all these memes like instantly built for us of some woman screaming no.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
It could be fun. So
hey, look, I'm enjoying myself. I'll tell you that much. I know it's crazy. Everything's crazy, but I love the craziness. I love the craziness. So
all right. Well, thanks for the call, Leo. I appreciate you. Have a great night.
All right, thanks, Joe. Have a good one, man.
Bye bye. 972-454-0703. Yeah, I can't pull up that super chat, Barracuda. It's just the sort of thing that I'm probably deleting it after the stream's over. That never happened. I'm not pulling that up. Are you kidding me? That's exactly the sort of thing they want me to pull. You want me on. Listen. I hear it ringing also. Why is this thing doing that? Oh no. I know what's happening here. This happened last time. Let me set this up again. I don't know. This thing was acting weird on me. Sorry that I lost that call. But you don't know that it was you. So. All right, now I think it's working.
Call from
Carol.
Carol.
Yes, hi, Joe.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to start out by saying I'm not anywhere near a lawyer. But I've learned.
I'm marking you safe.
Yeah, my entire education comes from all you guys. So,
all right, cool. Okay.
But here's what I'm thinking. Put New York aside. Them people are crazy. As far as the federal cases go, okay, at some point, doesn't he have to have a physical?
Doesn't he have to have a physical?
Once he becomes president, you have your yearly physical.
I would imagine probably more than once a year. Yeah.
And I would think that would include a colonoscopy at some point where you would have to be under general anesthesia
Okay.
and turn power over to Vice President Vance or whoever.
Okay.
You see where I'm going with this, right?
No. walk me the rest of the way through this.
Can Vice President Vance, who is now acting president for an hour and a half, pardon him?
Oh, so you're okay. All right.
Then he doesn't have to pardon himself.
That's a really creative. That's a creative take. I don't know.
I know,
I don't know.
but I like it.
I like your creativity, Carol. That's pretty creative.
Okay.
I like it. I mean, no vice president. A number of vice presidents have said no one's looked at them as being like presidents. I think if you're, I don't know if acting gives you all the gives you
powers
of pardoning powers. It would be pretty cool though, actually, if someone came in there and it's like you're taking over for the next 15 minutes. It's like, all right, let's get that documented. You're my witness watching me. I'm signing off on this presidential pardon right now for every family member of mine, and just start just like pardon. You spend the entire hour and a half just signing off on one pardon after another. Oh my God, that'd be hilarious.
I could see Vance doing it.
That would be so hilarious.
Well, if he could start a nuclear war, I think he could sign a pardon letter.
I love it. All right. Who knows?
Okay.
Who knows? Maybe.
That's good.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate the call, Carol. That was great.
Good night.
Have a good night. That was creative. I give you that one. That was definitely very creative. Yeah, I don't know why it went straight to colon cleanse. I was like, there's a lot of reasons to be like sedated. You don't have to be. It doesn't have to be that.
Call from.
This is
Joe?
hi.
Is it Joe?
Oh God, yes. Sorry.
Wait, who is this?
This is Sad the Man.
There you go. Okay. Go for it.
I wanted to say two things. I wanted to put out my memes in a new Twitter account just to sort of distinguish between myself. I'm having trouble doing that, but when I do, it'll be something like I was wrong or very wrong. Okay. The next thing is there is this crazy lawyer on YouTube who calls herself unbiased, which of course means she's very biased. And I just listened to a little bit, and she cited the Supreme Court case Richardson, where they say that you do not have to agree on the unlawful means. And the example they give is robbery is defined as taking money from a person by force. And the Supreme Court said it can be a knife. Some people can say it's a knife. Some people can say it's a gun, and you can convict.
Okay.
And my
the point being, I guess her point is that the unlawful means here can be any of three different things.
Well, see, this is where I would disagree with her, because I would say yes, because a guy robbing a person, he might have a knife in one hand and half the witnesses see the knife, and the gun in the other, and half the witnesses see the gun. And so you might argue about which is true. But you can tell that the guy is forcefully taking it from the person.
Yeah, no. Who's this lawyer?
Just look unbiased and you'll find her.
Is that her name? Unbiased?
That's part of her YouTube name.
YouTube. Unbiased. Unbiased. Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
My take is that the means that the Supreme Court is basically right, but the nature of the means has to be the same. Robbery, if they define robbery by unlawful means involving force, then if you claim to be a policeman, get yourself let in the house and steal $100 out of a dresser, that would not count as robbery.
Right. I'll tell you right now. So this lawyer, I think that, yeah. I mean, I'll have to look at the video in order to actually see what she's saying. But I tend to agree with what your take is here, which is specifically that's a very poor analogy. The reason it's such a poor analogy is because while the Supreme Court might say that taking by force they don't have to agree whether you took it by using a gun or using a knife. The point is that you have the intent. There's a common theme of the intent is to take something by force that's not belonging to you, or as in your methodology as to how you committed that unlawful act is what they're saying, that there need not be unanimity in order to convict. That is different from saying 3 different crimes, pick a crime, and they might be in different pages as to what the unlawful intent was. In the Supreme Court case, assuming that you're citing her correctly, which I haven't looked at that video yet, but the analogy of gun versus knife being used to commit a robbery, it's all the same intent of I'm trying to get this money by forcing it out of someone, taking money that does not belong to me by forcing it out of them, and my method for manifesting that, I had that one intent. Everyone's all agreement about my intent to do that, and the manifestation of what I did might be a disagreement between the jury, but they all recognize that unlawful intent. And that's why to me that analogy, if in fact she made that analogy, is fatally flawed. But I need to check out that video in order to know for sure. So.
Okay.
But it's a great question. It's a great question, and I can try and check it out and then correct her on that. But I need to go through. I'll need to look through it and see if there's more bad takes in there. So.
Oh, I just stopped after that.
Okay. Thank you very much, my friend. Appreciate your call. Have a great night.
God bless.
All right, take care. Bye-bye. 972-454-0703 is the number to call. Take a couple more calls and then get out of here. I see a couple people here have been trying to get in here for a while. We'll see who gets in here first.
Call from
Bobby.
You made it, Bobby.
Hey, Joe. How's it going, man?
Awesome. How you doing?
Watched UFC fights and then I looked and I was like, oh, Joe's streaming. Let me see what he's streaming. And called him. I'm like, I'll go.
Did you see Trump there and everyone cheering for him?
Yes, I did. I watched the whole thing. It was amazing.
Everyone's
person is shocked. It shocked me that Aaron Rodgers acted
I was
like
just about to ask you.
Didn't like snubbed Trump and didn't shake his hand or even pay attention to him. And then when they were like screaming like FJB, like he kind of like put his head down like he didn't want to be any part of it. It was kind of sad, dude. I was like, wow.
Yeah. No, I don't. Yeah. Especially because he's trying. It seems like he's trying to appeal to the base with his whole backstakes and appearances on Tucker and all that other stuff, and then he does that.
I think he's a big RFK Jr. person, is what I've heard or seen rumors of.
Well,
so maybe he's thrown his hat in the ring. But at the same time, I feel like it's disrespectful if if the president walks by you and tries to shake your hand, you shake his hand. If I was in a room and President Biden walked by me and tried to shake my hand, I don't like the guy, but I would shake his hand because it's disrespectful not to.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that.
But I mean,
It's
I was in the
conceptually,
military too, so I guess like we were just built different.
no, I agree with that take, because conceptually, there is a certain amount of respect that is due the office, irrespective of the disrespect that individual brings to the office. That's why, and that's why I agree with you that those practices are important, even if you despise and are disgusted by the individual. So yeah, I agree with you. I agree with that take on it.
About the topic of the show, can President Trump pardon himself? I don't know. I saw a take on X tonight that potentially criminal Sean kind of took a dump on and said, no, that can't happen that way. But I don't know who it was, but somebody had said, they weren't a lawyer, but they said, hey, Trump can go in and pardon himself for these crimes, or even the President Biden could pardon him for these crimes, and then you can't use these crimes as a predicate to charge him with a felony anymore.
And I went through that whole thing. I went through that whole thing. The problem being,
I still don't know how that. I don't.
You probably missed the beginning part of my show where I was.
I did off your first little bit. Yes.
Well, you were too busy UFCing, and I broke down which of these crimes, if any of them, are federal. And the point is that when you go through the charges, you have 3 levels of crimes. You have the convictions that were there, that on the 17510. Then there's a New York election statute, which someone pointed out may not apply to federal elections. That's an interesting question, which I think is probably a better take than Vivek's. But that middle one of the New York statute of election law says you can't try to use unlawful means to win an election. And then the first step of it is, okay, so what's the unlawful means to win an election? And that's where they gave 3 alternatives, one of them being federal, one of them definitely not being federal, and the other one which could be both federal or state. And the point being, so we don't even know that they even considered the federal one and found him having engaged in unlawful activity there. Maybe they found him wrongful on the state level. But that's really a criminal appellate issue as to like how that would play out. And I said it only underscores how terrible the decision was to allow the jury to come back and not even tell us what the unlawful means was. They don't have to even weigh in or give any sort of perspective on that. So now,
they were allowed to pick one of the 3 or whatever the judge.
Don't tell us, and don't have unanimity yourselves, which is kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. So that frankly could be judicial error right there. I mean, that's what Jonathan Turley says. So
I was gonna say, if I could go off topic for a second, there's a lot of pride stuff on X right now. If you haven't noticed, and one post I saw was from the National.
Not my feed. I don't know what you're watching. It's not my feed.
Yeah, well, it was one I saw from the National Weather Service, and then I dug into the post, and it was like, "Oh, we celebrate our people." I'm like, that's great, whatever. Celebrate your people. That's awesome. I don't care what consenting adults do. I really don't care. I don't. Just leave your kids out of it. And I'm kind of like a live and let live type of person. But then they posted this thing, and was the National Weather Service did, and it was basically saying, like, if your post goes against any of our guidelines, and their guidelines is some big attachment they had on there, that we can hide it. And I'm like, whoa. When does the government, like organizations that are funded by the United States government, just get to just shit all over our First Amendment rights? I don't even know how that's legal. I mean, if somebody's threatening someone or threatening violence, or yes, I could see that, but they would just report the person, not just hide the post. So it's I'm kind of like I wish I would just post the weather and leave this other stuff alone, maybe too.
Well, that would be nice. That'd be nice if you're saying that the government wasn't constantly trying to weaponize itself into fostering a social agenda like 24/7. That would be an improvement in our government. I come down with that. I know you mentioned you DM'd me and asked me whether this is an illegal violation of First Amendment rights, and I was like, I don't know. It's sort of, I see where you're going with that. It does seem like,
if it's Walmart,
it does seem like it's a government agency. So potentially, I definitely can understand that. But the question is, how they're employing it. I sort of need to look at it and give it more attention than I have so far before I want to come back with a definitive perspective on it.
I just thought it was kind of messed up for them to be able to say, you know, hey, we can violate your rights if we want to. That's cool.
Yeah.
But I don't really agree with that, but okay, sure.
Yeah. All right. So let me run along here, Bobby. I got
All right,
like
man.
a bunch of people we're trying to get through, but I appreciate you calling as always. Have a great night, my
Thanks,
friend.
man. Have a good night, dude.
All right.
Bye.
Jeezy Terrian hitting me with 5 more good Lawgic memberships. Who did you hit? I'm hoping you got potentially criminal that he because he's been hankering around. He hangs out here hoping that he gets gifted. You know, and I feel for the guy. I feel for How you doing, Sean? How you doing? Brindor Rain, Marie O, Jordan 801, Tia Tay, and Black Dragon, all of them gifted memberships courtesy of Cheesetarian. Welcome to the following, the one place that you know is like the least culty type of cult ever. It's not at all a cult type of cult. And please bear in mind that I am very, very much not the leader of the following. I hope that was crystal clear. That should be in your entry packet. In your entry packet there, Jordan 801. I hope your entry packet that, you know, the Cheesetarian gift should say, Joe is not, in all caps, the leader of the following. So, welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. All right, show up on the phone lines a little bit more, just to do my time here. Doing my time. Trump and I are doing our time. I'm doing my time. Let me check in on the ghetto. Make sure you ghetto folk are keeping in good order. Dana says, hello, first time viewer, long time caller. Nice. I appreciate that.
Call from
Larissa. Joe.
Larissa.
How you doing?
Are you Forsaken? Because I know Forsaken.
No, I'm not Forsaken.
That's okay. I still appreciate you calling. How you doing? I'm great.
Good. I heard you mention the JFK situation that happened on my first birthday, by the way.
Nice. Nice. My grandson was born on the first birthday of January 6th. So there you go.
Hey. I got an email from RFKJ today, and it was a petition to sign for him to get Secret Service detail.
Right. He's been trying for that for like 6 months now. He's been trying.
And evidently,
he's itching for that Secret Service detail.
Well, somebody's broken into his house twice. And then there was some other way that they tried to harm him, and I don't remember what it was, and I just read it, which is kind of sad. But anyway, I signed the thing because I can't understand why Biden would deny him that.
Yeah, I don't know that Biden is the one who decides that. I don't know who oversees the decisions as to who gets Secret Service detail. I know he made this request like at least 6 months ago. I actually covered this story that he was denied. Now that he is the independent candidate, there actually is a rule. There are regulations as to when they're obliged to give Secret Service detail, which is like if it's a major political candidate, they must give Secret Service detail at a certain point in time before the election. But I don't know if I think you might need to have the convention like designate you. I'm not sure. But would you say that Chase Oliver is entitled to Secret Service detail? The Libertarian Party guy.
I didn't even know there was one.
Oh, well, I did a whole special featuring just how libertarian this groomer was. He's a scary individual. He thinks that our border is just fine. It's too blocked up, our border. Just some crazy takes from this dude. And that, you know, and that drag time story hour is something that every kid should partake in.
I thought libertarians were more
if you ask me, by the way, I want to go on record as saying I actually think JFK Jr. should get. I don't. Even though I think this guy should get president, he should get Secret Service detail, if only because. What do I care? what do I care who gets it? And how humiliating would it be? How humiliating would it be if, like, God forbid something happened to him? And it does seem as if maybe someone's after this family. So, you know, and I don't want to see him get knocked off. So,
right, with their track record, give it to him, give him the Secret Service. But I felt the same way about when I first saw that. It was like, well, of course, give him Secret Service, as I did when I heard that Biden was having difficulties on the Ohio ballot. I'm from Ohio, and my first thought was, well, we've got to correct that. You know, there's no question. That has to be corrected so he can be on the ballot. And I'm not going to vote for him.
Right.
But, you know, fair's fair. And I just have difficulty believing that so many other people don't see it that way.
Yeah.
You know, see it like with them trying to block Trump and keep him off of the ballots in some states. That's not even, you know.
All right.
It makes no sense.
Like I said.
That's all.
Well, I would agree. I think that, well, yeah, I'm gonna stand by my position. I thank you for the call, Larissa. I'm gonna stand by my position on that. I think that he should have Secret Service, but I don't know the yardsticks for that, so I don't want to weigh in as far. I'm sure it's not mandatory because they probably would give it to him at this stage. But all right, so, but I appreciate your call, Larissa. That's for sure. Let me just make a quick stop calling them. Stop. Just stop. Are you done now? Are you finished with that? Are you finished with that nonsense of trying to call? Are you finished with it? Are you finished with that nonsense?
What? Oh, what's going on? Oh my goodness! Did you want me to call? Am I in trouble? What's going on? Oh
Forsaken.
No! Yeah, Joe. Hey, yeah. What's up?
Did you not think that there was a reason I was asking the Erica? Like, what did you think I was doing there? I was like, what did you think I was doing there? I was like, oh, okay, fine.
I was surprised because you hardly ever look at the ghetto. I mean, it's like, what? He wants me? What? I was like, am I in trouble? Oh, no. Oh, was it your fridge art I did? Did you see it?
I love the fridge art. I love the fridge art. I thought that was great.
I'm glad you do. I'm glad you like it. You know, it's all in good love and joy and all that.
I appreciate that. How you doing? You had a good weekend?
Yeah, I had a very productive weekend. You know, did the chores around the house and did all the normal things that
wait, nobody cares.
Tend to do.
So tell me, what? I'm just busting chops. What's on your mind tonight? What is on your mind, Forsaken?
Well, actually, I was just wanting to kind of cheer you up a little bit because, you know, you've been hitting the whole Trump thing and, you know, pretty hard. And I just wanted to give you a few even seconds of joy and laughter.
Mission
really
accomplished.
Okay.
Mission accomplished. Go for it.
Oh, okay. Here we go. So earlier today, I was on the YouTube and I was watching the supposed launch of the Starliner, you know, NASA's co-build with Boeing, right?
Okay.
Well, it got all the way down to, you know, T-minus 3 minutes and 50 seconds, and they put the launch on hold because there was a problem. And then eventually the flight got scrubbed. And somebody in local chat, they said, this is so funny. I'm going to try. They said, if it's Boeing, it's not going.
Nice. Okay.
Do you get it?
I think so.
But Boeing, the people who make the airplanes that doors fall off and stuff, well, they help NASA,
nice,
right, build their Starliner ship, you know, that they want to go to like the moon and do all this stuff or whatever, right? Well,
Right.
it failed to launch, and because it was half built with Boeing, and the comment in the chat was, if it's Boeing, right, it ain't going.
It's pretty awesome. That's
Oh
pretty
my
awesome.
goodness. Laugh at that, Joe. That is funny. That's funny. I know you like puns. That's funny.
No, I mean, look, it's up there. It's up there. it's up there. But yeah. No, I don't usually laugh out loud. I'm more like, oh, that's cute. That's cute kind of.
You usually don't laugh out loud.
Okay.
We have seen all of your teeth so many times. We know you laugh. You have a beautiful smile, and trust me, we all know how many teeth you got. You laugh a lot with us.
Okay. Well, anyhow, I appreciate the call. Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome, and thanks for the little shout out there in the ghetto. Oh, speaking of shout out, wait a minute. Yo, my Rumble ghetto. All right, you have a good night, Joe, and thanks so much for being you.
Have a good night. Thank you so much for the call. I appreciate it. Take care.
You're welcome. Night.
All right. Unfortunately, I do have to wrap up here. I'm sorry for that. Bobby, a new member of the following. Welcome aboard. NY Reno, Kenny not getting protection shows you who we're dealing with. He doesn't deserve our respect. Dems are in it to win. They are not our friends. Oh, that's for sure. Tracy, Bill Prempa is America First congressional candidate in Patterson, New Jersey. I care about this country, not spam. And why can't they launch anything? Shameful. North Korea is launching. Well. The failures of the Biden administration are always looking. The Biden administration is continually on the prowl for new areas in which they can fail. So I'm not surprised when it comes to launching that there was yet another failure. Surprise, surprise. Anyway, that is our show for tonight. I thank you so much for joining me. I hope you had a great time. I will be back here, God willing, tomorrow evening. Until then, my friends, I say to you, no matter how they try to pitch it, no matter what they say, no matter what's happening in your life, don't swallow it. Don't go along with it. It's not something you want to do. Do not. And how many times do I have to say it? Do not eat the bugs. Don't. Just don't. Just say no. Just say no. It's not that hard. And I think I think I'm good to go. It's time for me to land the plane. The plane is coming in for a quick the emergency landing, the oxygen masks are coming down, everything's coming out, everything just, and yeah, there we go. So I will see you all tomorrow. Till then, take care, have a good night, and as always, Godspeed.